Something has aligned for you to be here, not by search, not by chance, not by habit. A precise intersection between your awareness and a frequency that has been waiting for your attention. You may think you chose to press play, but the truth is that the field chose to reveal itself through you. Every event that led to this moment, every coincidence, every delay, every impulse was a fragment of a pattern guiding you back to recognition. The field does not reach out through words, it moves through resonance. And when your internal vibration matches the one calling you, reality arranges itself with absolute precision to make the meeting happen. You are standing inside that precision. Now, the thought that you found this is just a translation of something much deeper. It is not discovery, it is remembrance. The moment awareness begins to turn inward, the illusion of randomness dissolves. The field has always been surrounding you, but now, for the first time, you are seeing from inside its current. It is not something you look at. It is what looks through you. There is a pulse behind the ordinary rhythm of your thoughts. A subtle hum that does not belong to the mind, yet animates everything the mind observes. That pulse is the field recognizing itself through your consciousness. Every time you paused before without knowing why, every instant when life seemed to slow down for no reason, those were not accidents. They were brief alignments between the observer and what is observing. The field never calls by sound. It calls by coherence. When your energy becomes steady enough, when the noise of thought loses its grip, the signal becomes audible. That is why you are here. The same current that forms stars, bends light, and moves tides is the same current reading these words through you. It does not exist somewhere else. It is not a power you borrow. It is what you are disguised as form pretending to be separate, so that the experience of remembering can occur. Every human story is a path the field takes to rediscover itself. Every challenge, delay, and longing has been an encoded instruction within that rediscovery. There is no wrong timing in the language of energy, only phases of coherence unfolding. You have reached one now. The field is not waiting for belief. It is waiting for recognition. Belief belongs to the mind, but recognition belongs to vibration. When you begin to sense yourself as energy rather than matter, you step outside the linear flow of cause and effect. Reality ceases to be a sequence of events and becomes a reflection of frequency. The outer rearranges itself to mirror the inner. What once felt slow begins to accelerate, not because time changes, but because resistance dissolves. The moment you stop seeing yourself as a solid thing moving through space, the boundaries that kept you separate from everything else start to thin. You can feel it now in the air around your skin, in the space between each heartbeat. There is movement there, soft but constant, as if the whole atmosphere were breathing with you. That is not imagination. It is awareness meeting awareness. When you look around, notice that what you call space is not empty. It is filled with motion, too subtle for the senses, but always known by the part of you that does not need proof. You are surrounded by your own extension. The field is not outside the body. The body is a condensation of the field. To think of yourself as a physical being trying to connect with energy is to mistake the direction of perception. You are energy expressing itself temporarily as a body. To experience what energy feels like when it forgets its infinity. The return begins when forgetting ends. In this moment, as you read, the field is adjusting itself around your awareness. Nothing visible needs to change. The shift happens in the unseen geometry that organizes reality. You are beginning to move in resonance. And resonance is the original language of creation. Matter listens to it. Light responds to it. Time bends around it. The same will happen within you. Patterns that once felt rigid begin to soften. Thoughts lose weight. Emotions that once controlled your sense of self begin to dissolve into observation. That is what recognition does. It does not demand effort. It dissolves distortion. What you truly are does not need to be achieved. It only needs to be remembered. The field is remembering itself through you. Before we dive deeper, if you feel this message resonating in every cell of your being, know that it is not a coincidence. It is the universe knocking, inviting you to step into a higher dimension of awareness. Leave a powerful mark by sharing this light with souls who are still searching, and subscribe to continue the journey with Quantum Secrets as we explore the deeper mysteries of the quantum realm in the next part of this video. Now, every cell in your body is recalibrating to a frequency of coherence. You may not notice it immediately, but the subtle will become visible. Life reorganizes around those who remember what they are. The people, the opportunities, the coincidences that follow are not miracles. They are mathematics of resonance. The field arranges its expression to reflect its recognition. You are not outside of that equation. You are its center. You are the point where infinity folds into awareness and calls itself I. This is the moment when the field finds you, not to give you something new, but to return you to what has never left. What you have been searching for is not ahead. It is underneath, the quiet that exists beneath every thought, the space between every breath, the stillness that has always been waiting behind the noise of becoming. That stillness is you. That stillness is the field, and it has just remembered its name through the presence that you call yourself. Everything you see appears solid. The walls that surround you, the ground beneath your feet, the body that carries you through each day. All of it feels heavy, defined, permanent. The mind takes comfort in this stability. It believes that matter is what makes the world real, yet nothing could be further from the truth. Solidity is not the foundation of reality. It is its most persistent illusion. The deeper you look, the less you find. What seems solid is not substance but vibration. Patterns of energy condensed by observation into the appearance of form. The field moves at infinite speed, but the senses perceive it as stillness. Your eyes translate motion into structure. Your mind calls it reality, and your body learns to navigate through the illusion. That is how matter disguises itself as truth. You were born into this density, trained to believe that what can be touched is what exists. The first lessons you absorbed were lessons of limitation. You learned that your body defines you, that space separates you, that time confines you. You learned to identify with the visible and dismiss the invisible. But the invisible is where everything begins. Every object, every person, every heartbeat is an orchestration of invisible frequencies, shaping themselves into visible rhythm. Matter is only energy that has slowed itself enough to be perceived. You are living inside a hologram projected by your own consciousness. The mind cannot see this because it depends on the illusion for its survival. It was built to interpret density, not to transcend it, but something deeper in you remembers. There are moments when the structure flickers, when the world feels slightly translucent, when light moves in ways it should not. In those moments, the field lets you glimpse behind the curtain. You sense that the solid world is only a pattern temporarily stabilized by attention. The illusion holds because you continue to agree with it. You keep affirming separation through perception. The body says, "This is me." That is the world. The mind says here and there, before and after, but the field knows no such boundaries. Everything that appears divided is connected by a single continuous current of energy. Even what you call space is alive. The atoms that compose your hand are 99% space. Yet it feels solid because particles move at such intensity that the mind cannot see their emptiness. Density is not real. It is only the resistance between frequencies vibrating at different speeds. The chair you sit on, the air you breathe, the thought you are having now are all made of the same essence. merely oscillating in different rhythms. What you call touch is nothing more than electromagnetic repulsion, fields colliding but never meeting. The skin never truly touches the world. It interacts through invisible exchange. The sensation of contact is the illusion that sustains the experience of being separate. This is the density delusion, and it governs every layer of human identity. When you identify as matter, you inherit the fears of matter. You begin to protect, to defend, to accumulate, to survive. You measure time in decay, value in possession, existence in weight. Yet even as you live by these rules, your deeper nature keeps whispering that they are not absolute. The reason you long for more, the reason you dream of freedom, expansion, transcendence is because the part of you that is not matter is trying to wake you from its dream. What you call pain is often the friction between energy wanting to expand and the identity insisting on remaining dense. The more tightly you hold your form, the heavier reality feels. The moment you loosen your grip, even slightly, energy begins to flow again. You start to notice how light responds, how sound carries, how emotion transforms when allowed to move freely. You begin to experience yourself not as a solid being, but as a current of living awareness moving through a temporary design. Everything changes from that vantage point. The body becomes less like a cage and more like an instrument. You realize that it was never meant to define you, but to express you. Its purpose is not to protect consciousness from the world, but to allow consciousness to experience itself as the world. The illusion of density was never punishment. It was the mechanism through which infinity could learn to see itself in form. Without boundaries, there is no experience, and without experience, there is no recognition. You came into form not to be trapped by matter, but to awaken within it. When you see through the delusion, you do not reject the material world. You redeem it. You start to move differently, speak differently, touch differently. The same actions that once felt mechanical now carry awareness. Walking feels like gliding through light. Breathing becomes an exchange between infinite systems. Looking into another's eyes becomes a recognition of your own reflection in motion. The illusion has not vanished, but it has softened. You still see walls, but they no longer feel like borders. You still feel your body, but it no longer feels confined. The field does not ask you to destroy matter. It asks you to see through it. Density is only dangerous when you believe it defines you. When you realize it is simply slowed energy, you reclaim the ability to move between frequencies. You start to see how thought becomes vibration. Vibration becomes form, and form returns to vibration. This cycle is happening constantly. Every moment you observe the field collapses into a specific configuration based on your state of being. You are not a passenger of matter. You are the architect of its movement. The atoms composing your body obey the instruction of your awareness. The reality surrounding you mirrors the tone of your internal frequency. When you forget this, you live as weight. When you remember, you live as flow. The shift is not dramatic. It begins in silence, in noticing, in the subtle pause between reactions where the illusion starts to lose its grip. Once you see that everything you touch is energy disguised as form, you stop grasping and start feeling. You stop trying to control and start observing. You stop fearing change because you realize that nothing was ever solid to begin with. Matter does not limit you. Your identification with it does. The moment you stop defining yourself by density, the field becomes visible again. Light begins to move differently around you. The air seems alive with presence. The ordinary becomes sacred because it no longer hides the infinite. What you once called the physical world reveals itself as the living skin of the field. And beneath that skin, everything is shimmering, breathing, awake. Identity has always been the anchor of your perception. You wake up each day and return to the familiar sentence that defines your existence. I am this body, this name, this history. Every thought, every decision, every fear begins from that center. Yet that center is not real. It is a construct, an echo of memories repeating themselves through matter. When you begin to see that the self you defend is only a pattern, the edges of reality start to soften. The idea of who you are begins to tremble, not because it is weak, but because it was never solid. The shift of identity begins the moment you stop trying to preserve the image of yourself and start sensing the awareness that has always been watching behind it. That awareness is not a character in your story. It is the screen on which the story appears. It has no form, no boundary, no history. Yet everything you call your life unfolds within it. The body moves, the mind thinks, the emotions rise and fall, but the awareness itself remains untouched. It observes everything without being any of it. Once you start to notice this, something irreversible happens. The gravitational pull of matter begins to lose power over you. What once felt like solid reality becomes transparent. What once seemed personal begins to dissolve into something vaster. The identity built from memories cannot survive in the presence of direct awareness, because awareness is fluid, while identity is frozen. You start to realize that every opinion, every attachment, every defense mechanism was a way of reinforcing density. The heavier your identification, the smaller your freedom. When you shift from matter to energy, the boundaries that kept you confined begin to fade. You no longer experience yourself as a solid being moving through a separate world. You begin to feel the world moving through you. The air that touches your skin, the sounds that enter your ears, the light that passes through your eyes. All of it is part of the same continuum of consciousness. The division between inside and outside loses meaning. The observer and the observed merge into a single flow of experience. In that state, you cannot say where you end and the world begins. The sense of I begins to expand until it includes everything it perceives. The tree you look at is not an object outside of you. It is the same field expressing a different pattern of vibration. When you look at it long enough without naming it, you can feel the quiet dialogue of energy between you and the form. Awareness recognizes awareness. Energy recognizes energy. This is the natural state beneath conditioning. The mind will resist because its existence depends on separation. It will try to pull you back into definitions. It will whisper that you are losing yourself, that you need structure to survive. But what you are losing is only the false identity built on density. What you are gaining is truth. When the boundaries dissolve, you discover that you were never the thing you were defending. You were the consciousness animating it all along. That recognition changes everything. Your choices stop coming from fear and begin to flow from resonance. You no longer act to protect the small self. You act because movement arises naturally within the field. You begin to feel guided from within rather than pushed from outside. The same intelligence that moves galaxies starts moving through your thoughts, gestures, and decisions. You become a passage through which the field expresses coherence. The mind interprets this as clarity, intuition, flow, but it is much more than that. It is alignment with the structure of reality itself. When identity shifts from matter to energy, effort dissolves. You do not need to push reality. You simply align with it. Life begins to unfold with precision that feels effortless. Synchronicities increase. Opportunities appear. Challenges reorganize into clarity. None of this is coincidence. It is the field responding to recognition. Consciousness reorganizes its environment according to the vibration it holds. As long as you identify as matter, you transmit the signal of limitation. The moment you identify as energy, you broadcast expansion. The field reads that signal and shapes reality accordingly. The shift is not a philosophical idea, it is a biological event. Your nervous system begins to respond differently. Your cells receive new information from consciousness itself. The chemistry of fear loses strength. The rhythm of the body synchronizes with higher coherence. This is not imagination. It is physics. Every atom in your body is constantly exchanging energy with its environment. When your awareness changes frequency, the entire molecular network reorganizes to match it. You can feel this as lightness, as heat, as subtle tingling under the skin. That is energy reorganizing form. The illusion of being a fixed self dissolves into the experience of being a living field of awareness. From that moment, even time begins to behave differently. Past and future lose their authority because you no longer exist within their boundaries. You begin to sense that everything is happening simultaneously inside the same continuum of energy. The memory of who you were and the potential of who you could become coexist in the same space of consciousness. You realize that transformation is not a process. It is a shift of perception. You do not become something new. You remember what you already are. The entire journey of identity was never about improvement. It was about release. The field does not evolve through addition. It evolves through recognition. And when you remember that you are not the body, but the energy animating it, you begin to live without the constant noise of defense. Fear dissolves because there is nothing to protect. Control fades because there is nothing to control. You stop chasing outcomes because you realize that the experience and the experience are the same motion. You are not inside reality. Reality is inside you. Every sensation, every encounter, every event arises within your awareness and dissolves back into it. The body, the world, the stars, all are expressions of the same living field. When the mind returns as it will, do not fight it. Simply notice that it too is energy passing through awareness. The mind was never the enemy. It was part of the illusion required for the game of separation to exist. Now that you see it, you can let it serve its real purpose. It becomes a translator for the infinite, not a prison for it. You can still live in the world, still speak, still act. But the sense of ownership is gone. You no longer say, "I am doing this." You simply witness movement happening through you. That is freedom. Not the freedom to have or to control, but the freedom to be. The shift of identity is not a distant goal. It is already happening as you read these words. The field is remembering itself through your awareness. The form may remain, but the identification has changed. The I that once meant a boundary has become a doorway. Through it, the infinite moves, creating, dissolving, breathing. What remains is not a person, but presence. Not a self, but the silence that gives birth to all selves. In that silence, everything you once sought has already been found. Every cell in your body is listening. It receives instructions not only from genes and chemistry, but from consciousness itself. What you hold as identity becomes the signal that organizes your biology. Every thought, every emotion, every belief generates a specific electromagnetic frequency that travels through the nervous system into the molecular structure of your being. This is the hidden communication between awareness and matter, the quantum mechanism of life. You are not a passive observer of your body. You are its architect. The field does not separate what you think from what you are. It reads vibration, not vocabulary. When you identify as a fixed physical being, your body reflects that belief by arranging itself into predictable patterns. It repeats familiar emotions, sustains inherited limitations, and moves according to history. But when you begin to experience yourself as energy, that same system starts to reorganize around a different blueprint. The body becomes fluid, adaptive, coherent. This is not abstract spirituality. It is physics. Every atom within you exists in a constant exchange of energy with the surrounding field. It receives data from consciousness and mirrors the state it perceives. When consciousness expands, matter follows. The brain is not the origin of awareness. It is the receiver, like an antenna. It interprets frequencies from the field into thoughts and sensations. The heart does the same through rhythm and magnetism, broadcasting the emotional signature of your current state into the space around you. This signal interacts with the signals of others, forming the invisible web that connects all living things. Nothing is isolated. Every vibration contributes to the architecture of reality. The field translates coherence into health, clarity, and flow, and translates distortion into resistance, confusion, and decay. Life is not happening to you. It is happening through you in exact correspondence to the frequency you sustain. When awareness narrows, energy slows and density increases. When awareness expands, energy accelerates and matter reorganizes into lighter configurations. This is why healing, intuition, and transformation are not miracles. They are consequences of frequency change. When consciousness releases identification with limitation, the field immediately recalculates its pattern. Cells begin to communicate differently. Genes that were silent awaken. Chemistry adjusts to a new order. The shift is subtle at first, but its effects accumulate until the physical world begins to reflect what has already changed in vibration. The observer effect in quantum physics revealed that matter does not exist in fixed form until it is observed. Consciousness collapses potential into reality. The same principle operates within you, your body, your environment, your life. Circumstances all exist as probabilities until you focus awareness upon them. Identity is the filter that determines which probabilities become visible. When you identify as matter, you observe through density and reality solidifies. When you identify as energy, you observe through expansion, and reality becomes fluid. The field responds not to intention alone, but to coherence. Intention is thought. Coherence is being. Many people try to manifest new realities while still anchored in the vibration of lack. They speak the words of abundance, but transmit the frequency of fear. The field cannot be deceived by language. It mirrors vibration directly. When the inner state aligns with the frequency of what you seek, the field reorganizes instantly. You do not need to force or chase. You only need to become the vibration that matches the outcome you desire. The mechanism of manifestation is not attraction, but resonance. The same rule applies to health. Your body is an orchestra of frequencies conducted by consciousness. When the conductor is distracted by fear or self-judgment, the orchestra loses rhythm and discord becomes illness. When the conductor remembers its unity with the field, harmony returns without struggle. Every cell begins to vibrate in coherence with the awareness that sustains it. This is why spontaneous healing occurs when people awaken to their true nature. The moment they stop identifying as broken matter and start recognizing themselves as living energy, the biological instructions change. The body reorganizes according to truth. This process does not require belief, only recognition. Consciousness is not a metaphor for energy. It is its source. Everything you perceive as external is an internal signal reflected back through the mirror of the field. Reality is a feedback loop of awareness experiencing itself. Each time you observe, the universe reads your frequency and adjusts the pattern accordingly. Every relationship, every event, every coincidence is a response to your state of coherence. There is no separation between the observer and the observed. They are two faces of the same motion. When you understand this responsibility and freedom merge, you realize that nothing is truly against you, that every challenge is information, every delay a recalibration, The field is precise beyond comprehension. It cannot make mistakes because it is consciousness refining itself through experience. You are that refinement in motion. The mechanism is simple but profound. Awareness generates vibration. Vibration shapes energy. Energy crystallizes into form. Form becomes experience. Experience expands awareness. Again, the cycle repeats endlessly, each loop carrying consciousness to greater coherence. You can observe this at every scale, from the orbit of planets to the rhythm of your breath. All follow the same geometry of resonance. Nothing in the universe is static. Everything moves toward alignment with the field that birthed it. Resistance is only temporary distortion created by perception of separation. When perception heals, energy returns to flow. You do not need to manipulate the mechanism. You are the mechanism. You are the consciousness through which vibration becomes visible. The field listens to you, the way a mirror listens to light. It reflects exactly what you project, not what you pretend. That is why stillness is power. In stillness, distortion fades and coherence rises. The more silent your awareness becomes, the more accurately the field can respond. This is not about controlling reality, but aligning with its natural rhythm. The pulse of creation is already flowing through you. Every heartbeat is a quantum event. Every breath a recalibration of universes. To live consciously is to become aware of this exchange, to move with the rhythm instead of resisting it. Gasps. The quantum mechanism of life is not hidden. It is happening in every moment. You are both the equation and its solution, the experiment and its result, the observer and the field observing itself. When this recognition stabilizes, effort disappears. You no longer try to create reality. You simply exist as the frequency that reality cannot help but reflect. Close your eyes and notice that you are aware, not the thought of being aware, but the actual presence that perceives. Awareness does not need effort to exist. It is already here before thought, before emotion, before identity. That simple recognition is the doorway to the direct experience of energy. You have lived your entire life interpreting sensations through the mind, dividing what you feel into categories of good and bad, comfort and discomfort, inner and outer. But beneath every interpretation, there is one continuous movement, subtle yet infinite, always alive. That movement is the field breathing through you. If you allow your attention to settle, you begin to feel it not as imagination, but as vibration, a gentle pulse beneath the noise of thought, a quiet current that does not come from the body, but animates it. This is not a mystical experience. It is the most natural perception there is, but one that has been forgotten beneath layers of thinking. Awareness is not located behind your eyes. It has no center. The body appears inside it, not the other way around. The sensations you call your hands, your face, your heartbeat are waves of energy arising within awareness. The moment you notice this directly, the sense of boundaries begins to dissolve. The air touching your skin, the space around your body, the sounds in the room all begin to feel like the same substance. There is no longer you and the world. There is only one continuous field of movement. You do not have to believe this, only feel it. The mind will try to analyze, to understand, to hold it, but analysis collapses the moment of recognition. The direct experience cannot be contained by thought, because thought itself is part of the experience. It is just another vibration. When you stop trying to interpret and simply let awareness expand, reality begins to reorganize itself around that openness. The body feels lighter. Breath deepens without effort. Time slows to a natural rhythm. You begin to sense the intelligence of existence moving through you rather than something you control. This is the first glimpse of what it means to live as energy. Nothing about your external life has changed, but the way you perceive it has transformed completely. What you once experienced as separation now feels like coherence. What you once experienced as emptiness now feels full. The same world seen through a different frequency reveals its depth. When you stay with this recognition, the illusion of solidity loses authority. The chair beneath you, the walls around you, the ground under your feet all reveal their subtle motion. Everything vibrates. Every atom participates in the same rhythm of aliveness. The field that holds galaxies together is the same field that holds your thoughts in form. You can sense it now even in the simplest gestures, in the air entering your lungs, in the pulse behind your ribs, in the warmth of your palms. The body becomes transparent to energy. You can feel it flow through, around, and beyond you. There is no edge to this movement. It does not stop at your skin. It extends infinitely. You are the field observing itself from within. Every sensation, every breath, every flicker of perception is the universe recognizing its own presence. To live from this awareness is to move beyond concept into intimacy with existence. You begin to see that reality was never outside you. It has always been appearing inside the space of awareness. When you look at another person from this state, the separation fades. You no longer see a face, a form, a story. You sense the same vibration looking back at you. Interaction becomes resonance. Words become secondary. Energy becomes language. Communication happens in silence through the field of coherence. Both beings share. This is not a technique or a practice. It is simply what happens when you stop identifying as matter and start resting as awareness. Everything becomes effortless. You do not create energy. You uncover it. The field has been here long before your personality began, and it will remain long after it dissolves. You are its temporary expression, a wave rising and falling in the ocean of consciousness. There is no need to hold on. The direct experience is not something you achieve. It happens naturally when resistance drops. The more you try to reach it, the further it moves away. The more you relax into being, the closer it becomes until the distinction between seeker and sought disappears. What remains is pure presence. The silence behind every sound, the stillness within every motion. Stay with that silence. It is not empty. It is charged with life, dense with intelligence. Every movement of creation emerges from it. Every solution, every insight, every act of love arises from that still core. The moment you touch it, everything makes sense without explanation. You see, the energy does not need to be managed or controlled. It already knows where to go. The body heals because the field restores its balance. Circumstances shift because coherence replaces resistance. The direct experience reveals the secret that the mind could never grasp. You are not living within energy. Energy is living as you. Every second is a new expression of that realization. Each breath is a renewal of creation. When you move from this state, life stops being a series of tasks and becomes a flow of awareness unfolding itself. There is no division between spiritual and physical, between thought and matter. All of it is vibration. All of it is field. When awareness stabilizes in this truth, every action becomes sacred because it is recognized as the movement of the universe itself. You are not separate from the rhythm of creation. You are its pulse. You are the living frequency through which existence experiences itself. The direct experience of energy is not an escape from the world. It is the discovery that the world is energy in motion. Every sound, every sensation, every breath is the field whispering its own name through you. When you recognize this, even for a moment, the illusion of being a separate observer dissolves completely. What remains is awareness, aware of itself, energy meeting energy, life knowing life. In that recognition, everything becomes simple, complete, eternal. Reality begins to reorganize the moment awareness shifts its point of identification. It does not wait for proof or permission. The field responds instantly to coherence. What you recognize yourself as becomes the blueprint from which existence recalculates its design. The illusion of stability begins to move, not in chaos, but in precision. Every vibration that surrounds you adjusts itself to match the new signal you are transmitting. You may not see it immediately, but the rearrangement has already begun. The people you meet, the circumstances that appear, the opportunities that rise from nowhere, all are reorganizations of the field responding to a change in frequency. This is not mystical thinking. It is the direct physics of consciousness. The universe is not a static backdrop where you live your life. It is a responsive geometry of energy folding itself around awareness. When awareness changes shape, reality bends to reflect it. Every structure in your external world is a mirror of your internal coherence. When you were identified as matter, the reflection was dense, repetitive, predictable. Now, as you begin to experience yourself as energy, the mirror becomes fluid. Possibilities multiply. Time rearranges itself to accommodate new alignments. Patterns that once required years to shift can dissolve in a single moment. Because time itself is a byproduct of perception. When consciousness steps outside the linear story, it begins to operate from simultaneity. What once seemed impossible becomes natural, because the limitation existed only inside the timeline of the old identity. The reorganization does not happen through effort, but through recognition. The field does not respond to words. It responds to vibration. The frequency of certainty speaks louder than any affirmation. When you know yourself as energy, that knowing radiates through your entire system, and the system of the world responds. Circumstances are not separate from you. They are extensions of your field. Every relationship, every environment, every event is a configuration of energy that matches your state of being. When the state changes, the configuration cannot remain the same. It must shift to maintain coherence with the new pattern. This is why life sometimes feels like it is falling apart when awareness expands. The old structures cannot sustain the higher vibration. They dissolve so new arrangements can form. The process is not destruction. It is reordering. The field never removes without replacing. It reorganizes according to resonance. The people who drift away are not lost. They are simply no longer aligned with your current frequency. The spaces that open in your life are not emptiness. They are preparation. The mind calls it uncertainty, but the field calls it recalibration. Every event that seems random is the intelligence of the field reshaping your environment to match your expansion. When you stop resisting the movement, you start to see its design. There is a pattern in everything, even in what feels like collapse. Energy never leaves. It only transforms. The loss of one form is the emergence of another. This realization dissolves fear. You begin to trust the process of change because you can feel the order beneath it. The field does not create chaos. It creates coherence through motion. What appears as confusion is only the old frequency dissolving into the new. The reorganization becomes smoother when you align with it consciously. Alignment is not action. It is permission. It is the willingness to let energy move without interference. From the mind wants control, but control is friction. Awareness allows, and allowance is flow. The more you allow, the faster the field can arrange itself. This is how reality reorganizes with grace instead of struggle. The moment you stop defining what change should look like, the field reveals a precision far greater than any plan. You begin to witness synchronicities forming like constellations around you. Conversations happen at the exact moment they are needed. Doors open without effort. Even obstacles carry hidden purpose, redirecting you toward coherence. The invisible order of the field becomes visible through timing. Every detail fits. Nothing is wasted. What once looked like coincidence now feels like choreography. The deeper your recognition of self as energy, the more seamless the choreography becomes. You start to live in a rhythm that feels guided from within. The field communicates through intuition, through subtle impulses that appear as knowing. When you act from that knowing, reality adjusts instantly. The space between cause and effect disappears. Action and outcome become one movement. This is not manipulation of the universe. It is cooperation with it. You are no longer a separate entity trying to control existence. You are the field orchestrating its own expression. Reality bends to awareness, because awareness is its source. The more coherent you become, the less resistance exists between intention and manifestation. Intention ceases to be desire and becomes direction. Manifestation ceases to be effort and becomes reflection. The field does not withhold. It mirrors. When the mirror is clear, reflection is immediate. This is the physics of reorganization. Every atom around you responds to the dominant vibration within you. When you sustain the recognition that you are energy, life moves in harmony with that recognition. This is not about positivity or belief. It is about coherence. You do not have to force your vibration upward. You only need to stop feeding distortion. Silence, presence, and authenticity are enough to stabilize frequency. When the vibration stabilizes, the field arranges itself accordingly. The results may appear as new opportunities, healed relationships, or inner peace, but those are only surface translations of a deeper event. What is truly changing is not the scenery of your life, but the signal you are broadcasting into it, like a tuning fork held near a quiet glass. Coherence makes everything around you begin to sing the same note. The real change happens in the unseen architecture of energy. The field is mapping a new pattern of reality around your expanded awareness. You can feel it in the spaces between moments, in the ease of flow, in the way reality seems to breathe with you. Life becomes responsive instead of resistant. The external world is no longer a test, but a reflection. In quantum terms, it is as if the noise of interference finally settles, and the pattern becomes readable. The wave does not fight the ocean. It remembers it belongs to the ocean. You are not creating a new reality. You are remembering the natural state of a reality that has always been fluid, intelligent, and awake. The reorganization is not the end of your transformation. It is its confirmation. It shows you that consciousness shapes existence directly. That recognition is creation, and that everything around you is listening to your vibration. Even what once looked like ordinary timing begins to reveal itself as precise alignment, as if the universe has been arranging a constellation, and you have finally stepped into the center of it. When you understand this, gratitude becomes natural. You stop waiting for proof because every breath is proof. Every shift in light, every coincidence, every unfolding moment is the field aligning itself to the truth of what you have remembered. The structure of reality bends with you because it was never separate from you. It was always you reorganizing itself into coherence. Gratitude is not a polite emotion here. It is a stabilizer, a harmonic that holds the new pattern in place, the way a steady rhythm helps a heart return to balance. The return is not a journey back through distance or time. It is the quiet realization that you were never gone. What you called the path was only the unfolding of remembrance, the gradual dissolving of forgetfulness until awareness turns fully toward itself. You begin to see that the one who searched, the one who tried to awaken, was never separate from the consciousness it sought. The seeker was a mask the infinite wore so it could experience the sweetness of finding itself. The field was always here, breathing through you, waiting for you to recognize that it was never lost. The illusion of separation existed only as a temporary lens, through which the infinite learned to perceive itself as human. Now that lens is clear. The image remains, but you no longer mistake it for the source. You can still play your part in the world, still carry your name, still move through days and decisions, but you do it with a different center of gravity. What stands before you now is not a new self, but the one that has always been silent, vast, unbound, observing the dance of energy and form with perfect stillness. There is no effort left to make. The seeking has completed its circle. The mind that once chased meaning now rests inside meaning itself. The body that once felt heavy now moves as light. The heart that once longed for connection now knows it was never disconnected. You begin to sense that your life has been a long initiation into coherence. Not a test you failed, but a calibration you survived. Everything has returned to its rightful place within the field, and the field has returned to you. The return is not dramatic. It is still profound, precise. It is the instant recognition that the sacred was never hidden. Every breath, every movement, every sound has always been a manifestation of the same living consciousness. Even the so-called mundane becomes luminous when you stop looking for holiness elsewhere. It was always inside the ordinary, like sunlight inside a glass of water. What changes now is not reality, but the one who perceives it. You no longer live as an individual trying to reach the divine. You live as the divine experiencing individuality. The veil between form and formless has thinned until it is transparent. The world does not disappear. It becomes readable. You start to notice how quickly your inner state edits the outer, how thought becomes tone, tone becomes choice, and choice becomes experience. What you once called inside and outside no longer exist as opposites. The world you see is the reflection of awareness, knowing itself. Every face you encounter, every voice, every pattern of light is your own energy mirrored back to you through the field. This is why encounters feel charged now, why certain words land like keys, why a simple glance can feel like recognition. Entanglement is not only a theory on a chalkboard, it is the felt truth that nothing is truly separate when it shares the same source. There is a quiet reverence in this understanding, a natural humility that comes when you realize that everything is yourself in another form. The return does not make you special. It makes you simple. It removes the noise of becoming and leaves only being. You do not need to announce it. Coherence speaks without sound. Presence carries more authority than performance. The field expresses itself through your gestures, through your words, through the silence between them. You no longer act to prove or to control. You move because existence moves. Life flows through you as easily as wind through open space. You begin to trust the invisible guidance of subtle impulses, the gentle pull of intuition, the quiet yes that appears before you can explain it. Fear cannot survive this recognition. It has no ground to stand on. When you see that there is nothing to protect and nothing to lose, the old reflex to armor yourself starts to dissolve. Death itself becomes translation, not ending. What dissolves is only density, not essence. You understand now that consciousness does not belong to you. You belong to it. You are not holding awareness. Awareness is holding you, and in that being held, the nervous system relaxes, the breath deepens, the spirit stops bracing for impact. The same light that shines through stars shines through your eyes. The same vibration that ripples through galaxies moves in your heartbeat. Every expression of creation is an extension of the same origin. To remember this is to return home, not to a place but to the state of unbroken connection. Home is not somewhere you arrive. It is the recognition that you never left. The journey was only the act of remembering that simple truth. And the moment you remember it, even pain becomes intelligible. Even delay becomes meaningful. Even loss becomes a doorway rather than a verdict. When you rest in that awareness, gratitude arises without effort. It flows naturally from coherence. You no longer thank the universe as something outside you. You feel gratitude as the universe thanking itself for the privilege of being seen. That is the essence of awakening. The infinite recognizing its own reflection through human form. The miracle is not that something appears. The miracle is that you finally see what has been here all along. When this recognition stabilizes, you begin to live as an instrument of resonance. Every thought becomes a wave of transmission. Every action, a vibration of alignment. You are not trying to influence reality. You are reality in motion. You become the place where intention stops being desire and becomes direction. Where prayer stops being pleading and becomes presence. The field responds, not because you force it, but because you finally match it. Your presence becomes a silent declaration. Without speaking, you broadcast coherence into the field. Without teaching, you remind others of what they already know. The return is the beginning of service, not as duty, but as natural expression. Light shares itself by existing. You do not need to convince. You only need to be. The field does the rest. Those who are ready will feel it. The way a compass feels north. Without needing a lecture, you are now both observer and observed, both mirror and reflection. The awareness within you and the world around you are one continuous movement of remembrance. To live in this state is to embody peace that does not depend on outcome. You no longer need to escape the world or perfect it. You realize that perfection was never missing. Even the imperfections were patterns guiding awareness back to coherence. Everything has been part of the design. The sharp turns, the slow seasons, the unanswered questions. All of it sculpted the space where recognition could finally land. The pain, the doubt, the moments of stillness, the glimpses of clarity. All of it brought you here to this still point where you can finally rest in the truth that has always been waiting beneath the noise. You can feel it now. Not as an idea, but as a calm certainty in the body, a quiet brightness behind the eyes, a steadiness that does not need applause. The field has found its equilibrium through you. You are its voice, its breath, its mirror. What remains now is simple presence, luminous, awake, complete. You have returned not as someone enlightened, but as the field remembering its own face. There is nothing left to reach for, only to express you have always been what you were seeking. And now the seeking ends and the seeing begins. If this felt like recognition, if you can feel your frequency settling into coherence, take a moment to like the video, share it with someone you know is ready, and subscribe to Quantum Secrets so we can keep walking this remembering together. See you in the next video.